Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars through the massive viewport. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Coalition, and Jake felt proud to command the human fleet's most important ship. The coalition was made up of 12 alien species, all working together to keep peace in the galaxy. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her communication station, her fingers dancing over the controls. She had been monitoring coalition channels all morning when suddenly her screen lit up with urgent messages. Her face went pale as she read the incoming data. "Captain Morrison, we have an emergency transmission from Coalition Command," Amy said, her voice tight with worry. Jake walked over to her station and read the message. The Hegemony, a dangerous empire of machine-enhanced beings, had launched massive attacks on 3 coalition worlds at the same time. Every member species was ordered to send their fleets to help defend these planets. "Get me Admiral Bennett," Jake ordered. Admiral Lisa Bennett appeared on the main screen from Coalition headquarters. She was humanity's representative to the Coalition Council, a strong woman who had worked hard to earn respect among the alien species. Her eyes showed both determination and concern. "Jake, I'm sure you've seen the reports," Lisa said. "The hegemony is hitting us hard. We need to move fast." "What are our orders?" Jake asked. "Earth is committing our entire deep space fleet, nearly 200 ships, everything we have. You'll be defending Kepler 442b, an agricultural world that feeds billions across Coalition space. The Thrakari and Velaran fleets will provide backup within hours." Jake nodded. Kepler 442b was crucial to the Coalition's survival. If it fell, entire systems would face starvation. "We'll hold the line until reinforcements arrive." Dr. Kevin Shaw was already on the planet's surface studying the local ecosystem. His reports came through the communication channels showing increasing panic as hegemony scout ships appeared at the edge of the system. "Captain Morrison, this is Dr. Shaw," came the voice from the planet. "We're detecting massive energy signatures approaching. The civilian population is trying to evacuate, but we need more time." Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. 200 human ships against an unknown number of enemy vessels, but they had backup coming. The Coalition had never abandoned a member species before. The human fleet arrived at Kepler 442b, just as the first hegemony ships dropped out of hyperspace. Jake counted the enemy vessels and his heart sank. Over 600 ships, 3 times the size of the human fleet, all bristling with advanced weapons. "All ships, this is Morrison," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "We hold this line. Protect those evacuation ships and wait for Coalition backup." Commander Nicole Price led her destroyer squadron in the first attack. Her ships were smaller and faster than the enemy vessels, darting between the massive hegemony cruisers like angry wasps. Captain Tony Garcia's heavy cruisers formed the main battle line, their guns firing continuously at the approaching enemy. The battle was fierce and brutal. Human ships exploded in bright flashes while others limped away with heavy damage. But the humans fought with skill and courage that surprised even themselves. They used tactics the aliens had never seen, making split-second decisions that confused the logical hegemony computers. Hours passed. Jake kept checking his communication channels, waiting for word from the Thrakari and Velaran reinforcements. His fleet had lost 20 ships already, and more were badly damaged. Where was the backup? Finally, a message came from Admiral Bennett. Jake expected to hear that help was on the way, but her words hit him like a physical blow. "Jake, I have new orders from Coalition Command. The Thrakari and Velaran fleets have been redirected to defend their own homeworlds. You are to maintain position and continue defending Kepler 442b. Reinforcements will arrive when available." Jake stared at the message, reading it again to make sure he understood correctly. They were being abandoned. The Coalition was leaving humanity to fight alone against impossible odds. "When available," Jake muttered. "What does that mean?" Amy checked the Coalition battle reports coming through encrypted channels. Her face went white as she read them. "Captain, the other Coalition worlds are being successfully defended. The Thrakari homeworld reports minimal losses. The Velaran system has beaten back all attacks." The horrible truth became clear. The Coalition had sacrificed humanity to save their own species. While human ships died protecting a Coalition world, all the alien fleets worked together to protect each other. Humanity had been used as cannon fodder. More human ships died. Commander Price's destroyer took a direct hit and exploded, taking her and her crew with it. Captain Garcia's cruiser lost half its weapons but kept fighting. All across the battle zone, human vessels fought desperately while their supposed allies abandoned them. Dr. Shaw's voice came through the communication system one last time. "This is Shaw on the surface. Hegemony ground forces have broken through. The research stations are under attack. If anyone can hear this, the transmission cut off in static. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. With 60 ships lost and the planet falling, he ordered the retreat. The remaining human vessels pulled back, their mission a failure. As they jumped to hyperspace, Jake watched Kepler 442b disappear behind them, now under hegemony control. The journey back to Coalition space was quiet and grim. Jake reviewed the battle reports and communication logs. The evidence was clear. The Coalition had planned this betrayal from the beginning. Humanity had been deemed expendable. When the human fleet limped back to Coalition headquarters, they found the other member worlds celebrating their victories. The Thrakari and Velaran fleets had minimal damage. The Coalition had successfully defended what mattered to them, while letting humans die for a planet they could afford to lose. Jake met with Admiral Bennett in her office. Both of them looked tired and angry. "They used us," Jake said simply. Lisa nodded. "The reports are clear. While we were dying at Kepler 442b, every other Coalition fleet was protecting their own people. We were the distraction, the sacrifice they were willing to make." Jake looked out at the alien ships docked around the station. 3 years of friendship and cooperation had been revealed as a lie. Humanity had never been a true partner in the Coalition. They had been a tool, useful when needed and expendable when convenient. "What do we do now?" Jake asked. Lisa's eyes hardened with determination. "Now we make sure humanity never stands alone and helpless again. The Coalition wants to use us. They just taught us we can't trust anyone but ourselves." The betrayal at Kepler 442b would change everything. Humanity had learned a harsh lesson about the price of trusting those who saw them as expendable. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you abandoned the one species that valued loyalty above all else. Admiral Lisa Bennett walked into the Coalition Council chambers with her shoulders straight and her jaw set. The circular room buzzed with alien voices speaking in various languages, but the conversation stopped when the humans entered. Jake Morrison followed behind her, still wearing his battle-damaged uniform. The council chamber was impressive, with representatives from all 12 member species sitting in elevated seats around the room. At the center sat Fleet Commander Zethkar of the Thrakari, the Coalition's military leader. His insect-like features showed no emotion as Lisa approached. "Admiral Bennett," Zethkar said in his clicking voice, "we regret the losses at Kepler 442b, but such sacrifices are necessary in war." Lisa placed a datapad on the central table. "Sacrifices? Is that what you call deliberate abandonment?" General Pete Rodriguez, Humanity's intelligence chief, had worked through the night analyzing intercepted communications. His findings painted a disturbing picture of the Coalition's true intentions. "We have proof," Pete said, activating a holographic display. "Encrypted messages between Coalition fleet commanders. The abandonment of humanity was planned from the beginning. We were always meant to be the expendable force." The hologram showed communication logs between alien commanders. One message from a Velaran admiral was particularly damning. "The humans are eager to prove themselves. We can use this enthusiasm. Let them take the dangerous assignments." Dr. Rachel Kim, who had spent years building friendships with alien diplomats, felt her heart break as she read the messages. She had genuinely believed in the Coalition's ideals of cooperation and mutual support. Now she saw how naive she had been. Engineer Sandra Lopez had made another disturbing discovery. While reviewing Coalition technology sharing agreements, she found that humanity had been deliberately limited. Advanced weapons, shield technology, and faster-than-light communications had all been restricted from human access. "They kept us weak on purpose," Sandra said, her voice shaking with anger. "Every time we requested better technology, they found excuses to deny us. They wanted us dependent on them." Zethkar's response was coldly logical. "Your species shows potential, but you lack the strategic value of our established members. In warfare, resources must be allocated efficiently. The Thrakari homeworld produces 40% of Coalition military equipment. The Velaran system contains our primary research facilities. Kepler 442b, while important, was not as crucial as these assets. Jake stepped forward. So human lives are worth less than alien lives. Is that your position? All lives have value, replied Velnara, the Zephyrian representative. But command decisions must consider the greater good of the coalition. Lisa laughed bitterly. The greater good? Or just the good of species that aren't human? The truth continued to emerge as Pete presented more intelligence. The coalition had used similar tactics before, though never so obviously. Newer member species were regularly assigned to the most dangerous missions, while established members protected each other. Lieutenant Danny Clark, the fleet's communications specialist, had intercepted even worse news. The coalition was already planning their next major operation, and once again, humanity would be assigned to the most dangerous sector while alien fleets provided mutual support to each other. You're planning to do this again, Lisa said, reading the intercepted orders. The next battle, the next crisis, you'll throw human lives away while protecting your own people. Zethkar did not deny it. Efficiency requires that each species contribute according to their capabilities and expendability. That word, expendability, hung in the air like poison. Dr. Rachel Kim remembered all the dinners she had shared with alien colleagues, all the conversations about shared values and common goals. Had they been laughing at her behind her back? Communications from Earth showed that news of the betrayal had reached home. Jake's wife, Maria Morrison, was leading civilian protests demanding withdrawal from the coalition. Public opinion had turned decisively against their alien allies. The families of dead crew members wanted answers that the coalition could not provide. Admiral, came a transmission from Earth. The Senate has voted. They want all human forces withdrawn from coalition space immediately. Lisa looked around the council chamber at the alien faces. Some showed regret, others indifference, but none showed the shame that such betrayal deserved. These beings had used humanity's greatest strength, their loyalty and willingness to sacrifice for others, against them. The breaking point came when Zethkar delivered his final judgment. Humanity's emotional responses make you unpredictable partners. Your anger over this incident proves our assessment was correct. Logical species make calculated sacrifices for the greater good. Lisa stood up slowly, her decision made. You're right about one thing, Zethkar. We are emotional. We value loyalty, honor, and keeping our word. We thought these were virtues you shared. She activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on all human frequencies. This is Admiral Lisa Bennett, speaking to all human forces in coalition space. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Coalition. All ships are ordered to return to Earth space. The alien representatives began talking loudly among themselves. Some seemed shocked, others annoyed, as if humanity was being unreasonable. You cannot survive alone, warned Telvas, the Valoran science minister. The galaxy is dangerous for isolated species. We joined seeking partnership and found slavery, Lisa replied. We offered friendship and received betrayal. From this day forward, humanity will stand alone, and we will stand strong. Dr. Alex Turner, a human scientist working on coalition projects, raised a concerning point. Admiral, our intelligence suggests the hegemony's next target will be Earth itself. They see our withdrawal as weakness. Without coalition protection, we protected coalition worlds while they abandoned us, Jake interrupted. Now we protect ourselves. As human ships began departing coalition stations throughout the galaxy, some aliens finally realized their mistake. Felnara of the Zephyrians approached Lisa privately. Admiral Bennett, not all of us supported this decision. Some of us argued for treating humanity as true equals. Lisa looked at the alien diplomat with tired eyes. Some of you argued, but none of you stood up when it mattered. Your regret doesn't bring back our dead. The final human transport left coalition space 12 hours later. As Jake watched the alien stations disappear behind them, he felt both sadness and determination. Humanity had learned a harsh lesson about trust, but they had also learned something about themselves. They think abandoning us makes us weak, Jake told Amy Carter as she prepared the navigation systems for Earth. Does it? Amy asked. Jake thought about the human crews who had fought impossible odds at Kepler 442b, who had followed orders even when abandoned by their allies. He thought about the families on Earth demanding justice and the scientists already working on new defenses. No, he said finally, it makes us dangerous. The journey home would take weeks, but Jake knew they were not retreating in defeat. They were returning to prepare for the war that would surely come. The Coalition had taught humanity that they could trust no one but themselves. Now humanity would show the galaxy what that really meant. The journey back to Earth felt longer than the trip out to Coalition space 3 years earlier. Jake Morrison stood in his quarters aboard the UES Liberty, staring at reports from the surviving 140 ships of his fleet. Each report told the same story: damaged vessels, wounded crews, and a burning anger that seemed to fuel every human heart. Colonel Chris Johnson worked day and night in the fleet's tactical center, analyzing every piece of data from the battle at Kepler 442b. The hegemony machines fought with cold precision, but Chris had noticed something important during the fighting. Their tactics are predictable, Chris explained to the gathered officers during a fleet-wide briefing. The hegemony uses perfect mathematical calculations for every move. They assume their enemies will do the same. Dr. Kevin Shaw, who had barely escaped the planet's surface, nodded in agreement. I watched them coordinate ground attacks. Every movement followed exact patterns. They couldn't adapt when our evacuation teams did something unexpected. This gave Jake an idea. Human military thinking was different from both the logical coalition species and the calculated hegemony machines. Humans made gut decisions, took crazy risks, and changed tactics in the middle of battle. Maybe that was exactly what they needed. Engineer Sandra Lopez spent her time retrofitting human ships with technology the Coalition had forbidden them to use. Without alien oversight, humanity could finally develop their full potential. She worked on experimental weapons, stronger shields, and most importantly, a quantum communication system that would let every human ship coordinate perfectly across vast distances. The Coalition kept us using their outdated communication systems, Sandra explained to Jake. They said our quantum network was too unpredictable for Coalition operations. Now I understand why. They didn't want us to be too effective. Captain Lisa Parker, Jake's second-in-command, maintained contact with Earth throughout their journey. The reports from home were both encouraging and sobering. Humanity was preparing for war like never before. Director Mike Chen, who ran Earth's orbital shipyards, reported massive expansion of construction facilities. Every nation is contributing resources. We're building ships faster than ever before. The betrayal has united humanity in a way nothing else could. Dr. Rachel Kim, despite her disappointment with alien betrayal, argued for keeping some diplomatic options open. She had secretly maintained contact with a few aliens who had privately opposed the Coalition's treatment of humanity. Not all of them supported abandoning us, Rachel told Jake during a private meeting. A Zephyrian scientist named Veltar and a Velaran engineer called Quindos both sent me encrypted messages expressing regret. Jake was skeptical. Pretty words don't make up for leaving us to die. Maybe not, Rachel agreed. But if the hegemony attacks Earth, we might need every ally we can get. When the human fleet finally reached the edge of Earth's solar system, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Massive orbital defense platforms surrounded the planet like metal moons. Construction ships worked constantly, building more defenses every day. Admiral Kate Thompson, the new head of Human Defense Command, met with Jake as soon as his ship docked. She was a veteran officer who had taken charge of Earth's defenses while the fleet was away. "Welcome home, Jake," Kate said grimly. "I wish it was under better circumstances." "What's our situation?" Jake asked. Kate activated a holographic display showing Earth's defenses. "We've built 200 orbital weapons platforms and expanded our shipyards to triple capacity. General Pete Rodriguez has organized planetary militia forces on every continent. If the hegemony comes, we'll be ready." The most interesting development was something called the Terran Doctrine, developed by strategist Colonel Jim Parker. This new military philosophy embraced humanity's greatest advantages over both logical aliens and calculating machines. "We're unpredictable," Jim explained to a gathering of fleet commanders. "Coalition species follow optimal strategies. The hegemony uses perfect mathematical calculations. But humans? We make crazy decisions that work because nobody expects them." Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. "So we fight like humans instead of trying to fight like aliens." "Exactly. We use our emotions, our instincts, our willingness to take insane risks. These aren't weaknesses. They're our secret weapons." Jake reunited with his wife Maria, who had become a leader in civilian resistance efforts during his absence. She had organized evacuation protocols and underground networks throughout Earth's population. If they come for Earth, they won't find helpless victims, Maria told him. Every human knows what happened to our fleet. Every person on the planet is ready to fight. The civilian population had changed during the fleet's absence. The betrayal had awakened something in humanity that had been dormant during the peaceful coalition years. People spoke of honor, loyalty, and standing together against impossible odds. Dr. Kevin Shaw established research teams working on new defensive technologies. Without coalition restrictions, human scientists could explore dangerous and experimental concepts that had been forbidden before. We're developing weapons that don't make sense to logical minds, Kevin explained. Random pattern shields, chaotic targeting systems, and weapons that change their function mid-battle. Any calculating enemy will have trouble adapting. As Jake settled back into life on Earth, he received troubling reports from long-range sensors. Something massive was moving through space toward human territory. The sensor readings suggested a fleet larger than anything ever recorded, over 2,000 ships. Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Danny Clark analyzed the sensor data with growing concern. Captain, this is definitely hegemony. They're not just planning a raid. This is an invasion force designed to completely destroy Earth. The implications were clear. The hegemony had decided that humanity's defiance of galactic order made them too dangerous to exist. They were coming to finish what the coalition had started at Kepler 442b. Jake called an emergency meeting of all Earth's military leaders. Admiral Thompson, General Rodriguez, Colonel Johnson, and dozens of others gathered in the command center beneath Earth's largest orbital platform. They're bringing everything they have, Jake announced. Our intelligence estimates 2,000 ships, maybe more. They want to make sure there are no human survivors. The room was quiet as the officers absorbed this information. Earth's entire fleet numbered only 400 ships, including the newly constructed vessels. Even with all their preparations, they would be facing odds of 5 to 1. Colonel Chris Johnson broke the silence. We knew this was coming. The coalition abandoned us because they thought we were weak. The hegemony is attacking because they think we're dangerous. Let's prove them both wrong. General Pete Rodriguez nodded. Every human knows what we're fighting for. This isn't just about Earth. It's about proving that loyalty and courage mean something in this galaxy. Jake looked around the room at the determined faces of Earth's defenders. These people had been betrayed by their allies and now faced an enemy that wanted to destroy them completely. By all logical calculations, humanity should surrender or flee. But humans had never been good at logical calculations. We make our stand here, Jake declared. We show the galaxy what happens when you abandon people who value honor above everything else. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. Earth's defenders prepared for the greatest test their species had ever faced, knowing that the outcome would determine whether humanity continued to exist or became just another extinct civilization in the galaxy's long history. Outside, the stars looked peaceful, but Jake knew that death was traveling toward them at faster than light speed. Soon those same stars would witness either humanity's finest hour or their final moments. Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, now the flagship of humanity's entire space defense force. Through the massive viewport, he could see Earth's blue and white surface, beautiful and peaceful. In a few hours, that peace would be shattered forever. The long-range sensors had been tracking the approaching hegemony fleet for days. Over 2,000 enemy ships, the largest space armada in recorded history, was bearing down on humanity's home system. Jake's defensive fleet numbered 400 ships, newly promoted crews manning vessels that had rolled off the construction lines just weeks ago. Captain Lisa Parker, now his fleet coordinator, stood beside him reviewing tactical displays. The math was simple and brutal. The hegemony had a 20-to-1 advantage in raw firepower, and their ships were larger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything humanity possessed. All ships report ready for combat, Lisa announced. Admiral Thompson's orbital platforms are fully charged. General Rodriguez confirms that all planetary defenses are online. Jake activated the fleet communication channel. His voice would reach every human ship scattered throughout the solar system. This is Admiral Morrison speaking to all Earth defense forces. Today we face an enemy that wants to destroy everything we are and everything we've built. They think we're weak because our allies abandoned us. They're about to learn what humanity is really made of. The battle began near Pluto, where Captain Tony Garcia commanded the forward scout squadrons. His ships were the first to make contact with hegemony probe vessels. The initial engagement revealed important information about the enemy's capabilities. Their shields are strong, but they recharge in predictable patterns, Garcia reported over the communication channel. If we time our attacks right, we can punch through their defenses. Engineer Sandra Lopez's quantum communication network proved its worth immediately. While hegemony forces relied on traditional command structures that took time to relay orders, human ships could coordinate instantly across the entire battlespace. Commander Nicole Price led a squadron of destroyers in humanity's first major test of the Terran Doctrine. Her ships appeared to retreat from a group of hegemony cruisers, drawing them into what looked like a trap. Then, using quantum-coordinated timing, 12 human ships attacked from different angles simultaneously. The hegemony ship's computers couldn't process the illogical human tactic quickly enough. They had calculated the optimal response to Nicole's retreat, but they couldn't adapt when the retreat became a coordinated ambush. 3 enemy cruisers exploded before they could adjust their defensive patterns. The fighting retreated through the outer solar system as hegemony numbers began to tell. At Jupiter, General Pete Rodriguez's converted mining platforms launched surprise attacks from the asteroid belt. The platforms had been disguised as space debris, waiting silently until enemy ships came within range. Dr. Kevin Shaw's experimental weapons added another element of chaos to the battle. His ghost mines were nearly invisible devices that remained dormant until hegemony ships passed nearby. When activated, they appeared randomly throughout the battle zone, exploding without warning. The enemy can't calculate risks for weapons they can't detect, Kevin reported from his research station on Earth. Their tactical computers are struggling to adapt to threats that don't follow logical patterns. As the battle reached Mars orbit, the true scope of the hegemony invasion became clear. Hegemon Prime, the machine-enhanced being commanding the enemy fleet, had brought enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. His flagship alone was larger than most human cruisers. Captain Maria Morrison, Jake's wife, led civilian evacuation ships away from the battle zone while coordinating with Colonel Chris Johnson's defense of the orbital shipyards. Every human ship lost in combat was immediately replaced by automated construction systems, giving Earth's defenders seemingly infinite reinforcements despite their smaller numbers. "We're losing ships faster than we can build them," Johnson reported grimly, "but we're making the enemy pay for every kilometer of space." The hegemony advance continued relentlessly toward Earth. Despite human courage and tactical innovations, simple mathematics favored the invaders. Jake watched his fleet steadily shrink as brave crews threw their ships against overwhelming odds. Dr. Rachel Kim, monitoring communications from her position on Earth, detected something unexpected. Encrypted transmissions were coming from outside the solar system. Coalition species were secretly observing the battle. "Admiral, we're picking up Zephyrian and Velaran ships at the edge of sensor range," Rachel reported. "They're not participating, but they're watching." Jake felt a bitter satisfaction. The aliens who had abandoned humanity were now witnessing the consequences of their betrayal. They would watch Earth die and know they could have prevented it. The climax approached as the battle reached Luna, Earth's moon. Admiral Kate Thompson's orbital platforms opened fire with everything they had, but the hegemony fleet was too large. Thousands of enemy ships spread across space like a mechanical plague. Jake realized that conventional tactics, even with human advantages, could not overcome such overwhelming numbers. His fleet had been reduced to 200 ships while the enemy still fielded over 2,500 vessels. In minutes, the hegemony would begin bombarding Earth itself. Looking at the tactical display, Jake made a decision that would have seemed insane to any logical mind. He abandoned all defensive positions and ordered his entire remaining fleet to charge directly at Hegemon Prime's flagship. "All ships, this is Morrison," he announced. "We're going straight at their command ship. Every vessel, maximum speed, direct assault on the enemy flagship." Captain Lisa Parker stared at him in shock. "Admiral, that's suicide. We'll never get through their screening forces." "Maybe not," Jake replied, "but we're going to try. Humanity doesn't surrender and we don't run away. If we're going down, we're taking their leader with us." The desperate charge began. 200 human ships, all that remained of Earth's proud fleet, accelerated toward the massive hegemony flagship. Enemy vessels moved to intercept, But the quantum communication network allowed perfect coordination among the attacking ships. Hegemon Prime's mechanical voice echoed across communication channels as he observed the human assault. Illogical behavior. They sacrifice tactical advantage for emotional satisfaction. This confirms their species' fundamental irrationality. But the machine-enhanced being had made a crucial error. He assumed human irrationality was a weakness, when it was actually their greatest strength. The hegemony computers had calculated responses to logical attacks, retreats, and defensive maneuvers. They had no programming for dealing with an entire fleet willing to die in a direct assault on the command ship. Jake's ship, the UES Liberty, led the charge with engines at maximum power. Around him, human vessels exploded under enemy fire, but the survivors kept coming. Captain Garcia's cruiser lost its weapons but continued ramming smaller hegemony ships. Commander Price's destroyer squadron weaved through enemy formations like bullets, impossible to track or predict. The assault reached Hegemon Prime's flagship as Jake's ship slammed into the massive vessel's shields. The Liberty's hull cracked under the impact, but Jake managed to activate the ship's self-destruct sequence. "This is Morrison to all Earth forces," he said into his communicator as his ship began to break apart. "Remember why we fight. Remember what loyalty means." The explosion engulfed both ships in a ball of nuclear fire. Across the battle zone, the remaining human vessels followed their admiral's example, ramming enemy ships or detonating their reactors at point-blank range. Within minutes, most of Earth's fleet had been destroyed. The survivors watched as the Liberty disappeared in the explosion that also crippled Hegemon Prime's command ship. The human sacrifice had created chaos in the enemy fleet's command structure, but 500 hegemony ships remained. From her position on Earth's orbital platform, Admiral Thompson prepared to give the final order to evacuate the planet. The human fleet was gone, their admiral was dead, and Earth lay defenseless before the largest invasion force in galactic history. Then something impossible appeared on the sensor screens. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. But these weren't hegemony reinforcements. They were coalition vessels flying alongside ships Rachel Kim had never seen before. And they were attacking the hegemony fleet. The sacrifice of Admiral Morrison and the human fleet had crippled Hegemon Prime's command structure. But 1,500 hegemony ships still surrounded Earth. Admiral Kate Thompson prepared to activate the planet's final defense systems when her sensor operator shouted in disbelief. "Admiral!" New contacts dropping out of hyperspace, multiple fleets bearing 180 degrees. On the main display screen, nearly 300 ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. But these weren't the cold mechanical vessels of the hegemony. Thompson recognized Zephyrian design patterns, Velaran hull configurations, and several ship types she had never seen before. Dr. Rachel Kim, monitoring communications from Earth's surface, intercepted the incoming transmission. A familiar voice spoke in accented but clear English. "This is Admiral Veltar of the Zephyrian Independent Fleet. We request permission to join the defense of Earth." Rachel's hands shook as she opened the communication channel. "Admiral Veltar, this is Dr. Rachel Kim. Your timing is unexpected." "Dr. Kim, my friend," Veltar replied, and Rachel could hear emotion in the alien's voice. "My government may have abandoned humanity, but I will not. Many of us have come to stand with Earth." Captain Lisa Parker, floating in an escape pod after the Liberty's destruction, watched in amazement as the newcomer ships attacked the hegemony forces. These weren't official coalition vessels. They were volunteers, aliens who had defied their own governments to help humanity. The battle transformed completely. Velaran Captain Quindos led a squadron of heavy cruisers against hegemony battle groups, while Zephyrian fighters swarmed through enemy formations. Most surprising of all were ships from species Rachel had never encountered, beings who had heard about humanity's stand and traveled across the galaxy to join the fight. Engineer Sandra Lopez, working frantically in Earth's orbital command center, established communication links with the volunteer fleets. What she discovered amazed her. These aliens had brought their most advanced technology and were sharing it freely with human forces. They're transmitting weapon specifications, shield harmonics, everything, Sandra reported to Admiral Thompson. No restrictions, no conditions. They want us to win. The volunteer aliens fought with a courage that surprised even themselves. Inspired by human example, they took risks their species had never attempted before. A Velaran science ship rammed a hegemony dreadnought. Zephyrian pilots performed suicide attacks against enemy command vessels. Captain Maria Morrison, commanding evacuation ships in the outer system, coordinated with alien volunteers to rescue human survivors. Working together, they pulled damaged ships and escape pods from the battle zone, while continuing to fight the enemy. The tide of battle began to turn. Dr. Kevin Shaw activated Earth's hidden weapon systems, not just the orbital platforms everyone knew about, but a secret network of defense installations throughout the solar system. Combined with alien volunteers and human determination, these weapons started inflicting serious damage on the hegemony fleet. But the real change came from something unexpected. The volunteer aliens, fighting alongside humans, discovered capabilities they never knew they possessed. The rigid tactical thinking that had made coalition species so predictable began breaking down under human influence. Colonel Jim Parker's Terran doctrine spread through the volunteer fleets like a virus. Alien commanders started making emotional decisions, taking crazy risks and improvising tactics that defied their species' military traditions. The result was chaos that the hegemony computers couldn't process. A Zephyrian captain named Krelvan had spent his entire career following careful battle plans and optimal strategies. Fighting beside humans, he suddenly ordered his ship to attempt an impossible maneuver. Diving through a gap in enemy formation that logic said was too small, the maneuver worked. Krelvan's ship emerged behind enemy lines and destroyed 3 hegemony cruisers before they could react. Over the communication channel, he heard human voices cheering his success, and for the first time in his life he understood what courage really meant. Admiral Veltar coordinated the combined human-alien force with growing amazement. "Dr. Kim," he transmitted to Earth, "your species has taught us something we never knew we needed to learn. We have been thinking like machines when we should have been thinking like living beings." The battle reached its climax when the remaining human and volunteer ships surrounded the largest group of hegemony vessels. In the center of the enemy formation, Hegemon Prime's damaged flagship struggled to maintain command of the invasion fleet. Then the impossible happened. Captain Lisa Parker, rescued from her escape pod and given command of a damaged human cruiser, led a final assault that included volunteers from 6 different species. They attacked not with calculated precision, but with pure emotional determination. Hegemon Prime's final transmission revealed the fatal flaw in the machine being's thinking. Unable to compute tactical solutions, enemy behavior patterns defy logical analysis. How do organic beings function without mathematical optimization? The answer came from humanity's influence on their alien volunteers. Living beings fought for more than just mathematical advantages. They fought for friendship, for honor, for the belief that some things were worth dying for. These concepts made no sense to machine intelligence, which is why the hegemony could never truly defeat them. The combined fleet destroyed the remaining hegemony ships, including Hegemon Prime's flagship. As the last enemy vessel exploded, a cheer went up across the communication channels in dozens of different languages. Humans and aliens had won together against impossible odds. Admiral Thompson opened communications with Admiral Veltar. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved our world." "No," Veltar replied. "You saved us all. Humanity showed the galaxy what real courage looks like. We were just honored to learn from your example." In the days that followed, the aftermath of the battle changed everything. Word of humanity's stand spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring oppressed species everywhere. The coalition, weakened by defections and facing their own hegemony attacks, sent desperate messages begging for human assistance. Admiral Lisa Bennett, now Earth's ambassador to the galaxy, established the Human Accords, a new alliance based on genuine equality and mutual respect. The volunteer species who had fought alongside humanity became founding members of what would become the Free Worlds Alliance. Captain Lisa Parker, promoted to admiral after her heroism during the final battle, worked with alien engineers to develop new ship designs that combined the best of all species technology. These vessels represented something unprecedented in galactic history, true cooperation between different forms of life. Dr. Rachel Kim reopened diplomatic relations throughout the galaxy, but on humanity's terms this time. Species that wanted human friendship would have to prove their commitment to the values humans held dear: loyalty, courage, and the willingness to stand together against tyranny. Jake Morrison had died believing his sacrifice was humanity's last act of defiance. Instead, it became the spark that ignited a galactic revolution. His widow, Maria, established memorial services that celebrated not just human courage, but the courage of all beings willing to fight for freedom. The final scene took place months later on Earth's rebuilt orbital platform. Captain Lisa Parker stood where Jake Morrison had once stood, watching ships from dozens of species arrive in Earth's orbit. They came not as conquerors or manipulators, but as genuine allies seeking partnership with humanity. Dr. Kevin Shaw presented his latest research to the gathering of human and alien scientists. "We've learned something remarkable," he announced. "Every species has the capacity for courage and honor. Humans didn't invent these qualities. We just showed others how to find them within themselves." Admiral Veltar, now commanding the Zephyrian contribution to the Free Worlds Alliance, approached Dr. Rachel Kim with a proposal. "My government wants to formally apologize for abandoning humanity. They're requesting readmission to alliance with Earth." Rachel looked out at the mixed fleet of human and volunteer ships patrolling Earth's space. "Tell your government that apologies are welcome, but membership in the Free Worlds Alliance requires more than words. They have to prove they understand what loyalty really means." The story concluded with humanity no longer standing alone, but standing proudly at the center of a new galactic order. The species that had been abandoned by their allies now led a coalition dedicated to the principles they had refused to abandon: courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable belief that freedom was worth any price. Captain Maria Morrison, now commanding Earth's diplomatic ships, delivered the final message to the galaxy. They thought abandoning us would make us weak. Instead, it forced us to become strong enough to stand for everyone. Humanity learned that standing alone meant we could help others stand up too. The Free Worlds Alliance grew stronger each day, united not by fear or convenience, but by shared values and genuine respect. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not defeating their enemies but showing their friends what true partnership could accomplish.